I'm a great believer in luck. I believe I'm the luckiest person alive. And, I wrote a memo entitled Getting Lucky in January of 2014. The first half of it talks about how much I believe in luck and how lucky I've been. And I describe in there a dozen or so ways in which I was lucky. And I talk about, where I was born and when I was born. I was conceived during World War II. And if you read the Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers, it's all about something he calls demographic luck, which I call right time, right place. And merely being in the right place at the right time is a great advantage. So if you were born in World War II, you were conceived, you were at the front of the line when the world economy boomed in the post-war period. I went to the public schools in Queens, New York, not Queens Club, by the way, Queens, New York, and I got a fine education in the New York public schools for free. And I got into Wharton, which I was told I wouldn't get into, and on like that. And then I got booted out of the equity department at Citibank and asked to start high yield bonds. That was my sentence in Siberia. And that was, the greatest luck imaginable. And then meeting my partners over the years and starting Oaktree 30 years ago. And then the world deciding in the last 20 years that they weren't so crazy about stocks and bonds, but they wanted to be active in something called alternative investments. And guess what? We were there. Now, again, remember what I said about private equity 15 minutes ago. My partners and I didn't say the world is going to crave something other than stocks and bonds. They're going to want something called alternative investments. We should be there in 2005 to supply it to them. Rather, we had some ideas of what we could do well and make money at, and we set about doing it. And the world said, okay, now we want it. So, your second question was, what can you do? How can you take advantage? And there's there are many sayings about luck, one of which is that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So for private equity, for me in high yield bonds, for Oaktree with alternatives, what happened is we were prepared, not necessarily for the specific future that unfolded, but we were prepared to do a good job. And then an opportunity arose that we were ready for. And that's the way I like to think about success rather than some genius. I wrote, and maybe it was in Getting Lucky. I tell the story about, a guy walks into a pub and he walks by the dart game. And as he walks by, one of the darts players loses a terrible dart throw. But as the guy walks by, he knocks the target off the wall. And as it falls, the dart hits the bullseye. That's luck. But I think that's the way life is. Rather than premeditate and prepare brilliantly for the outcome that obtains, I think you work your ass off and you try to do a good job. And depending on how the future unfolds, you may be in position to benefit from it.